The storm had raged for 3 days across the mining outpost of Kether 9, battering the metal domes with sheets of ash and corrosive rain. Somewhere in the storm's heart, buried beneath clouds of dust and electrical static, something broke. That was when the distress beacon reached the ears of Joran Hale, a mechanic with no ship of his own, no crew, and no obligations beyond the rusting tools in his pack. He should have ignored it. Most did. Distress signals from abandoned colonies weren't uncommon in this quadrant of the Perseid Drift, and usually they meant trouble. Raiders, parasites, or worse, ghost signals that lured people to their deaths. But Joran had always been more stubborn than smart, and something in the faltering cadence of that beacon gnawed at him. So he went. Arrival on the dying world. His shuttle touched down in a desolate basin rimmed with mountains the color of burnt copper. The atmosphere was breathable with a filter, though the air shimmered with toxins that made his eyes water and lungs ache. Ahead, a collapsed dome lay half buried in ash. The beacon pulsed weakly from within. The mechanic adjusted his tool belt, muttering to himself, "This place is dead, Joran. Probably nothing left but busted circuits and bad memories." That's when he heard it. Voice. Small, high-pitched, fragile. "Are you here to hurt our mother too?" Joran spun, hand tightening on the wrench he carried more like a weapon than a tool. Out from the shadows of the cracked dome stepped a figure no taller than his chest. At first glance, she looked like a child. Slender limbs, wide eyes that glowed faintly with bioluminescence. But her skin shimmered with patterns like living ink, shifting across her body in response to the dim light. She tilted her head, curious rather than afraid. "She's dying," the little alien girl whispered. "Will you help her?" The mother. Her name was Ceres, though she admitted it was not quite translatable. She led him deeper into the ruins of the dome, through corridors choked with dust and collapsed girders. The deeper they went, the more Joran realized this wasn't just a mining outpost. It had been something else before. They came at last to a chamber pulsing with dim, organic light. Vines the color of midnight spread across the walls, wrapped around dead machinery, pulsing faintly like veins. In the center of the chamber lay something enormous, half buried, half revealed. At first Joran thought it was a ship, but no ship was alive like this. "This is Mother," Ceres said, laying her small hands against the vine-covered mass. "She carried us across the dark between stars. She grew us. She loved us. And now she's sick." Joran stepped closer, his mechanic's eyes automatically analyzing. The organism was fused with machinery, a living bioship, perhaps centuries old. Parts of her exoskeleton had collapsed inward. Corrosion had eaten through what might once have been radiant plating. The organic tissue was pale, withered, blackened in places like infection. He muttered, "I've seen hybrids like this, but never one alive." Ceres' eyes widened. "You can fix her, can't you?" Joran hesitated. He wasn't a doctor. He fixed engines, not dying alien star mothers. But the pleading in the child's eyes, and the faint, ragged pulse of the great organism beneath his feet, pulled at something in him he thought long dead. "Maybe," he said at last. "Show me where she hurts." Memories of the past. Over the following days, Joran worked. He stripped his shuttle for tools and power cells, patched into Mother's decaying systems, and studied the living circuitry that pulsed beneath her vines. Ceres stayed with him, watching his every move, sometimes humming strange lullabies that seemed to soothe the organism's spasms. From her he learned pieces of the truth. Her people were born of Mother, not in the way humans bore children, but as budding extensions of her essence, given individuality and freedom. They were a wandering kin, voyagers of the void. But decades ago, humans had come to this world and mined it greedily, poisoning the soil and drawing toxins into the very veins of the bioship. The colonists had left when the ground was spent, but Mother remained, wounded and unable to leave. Most of Sarah's kin had died. She was one of the last, her small form fragile but resilient. At night, Joran lay against the chamber wall, listening to the faint heartbeat of the colossal being. He remembered his own mother then, dead years ago on a mining colony where no one had cared enough to save her. He had left that world bitter, unmoored, fixing ships because it kept him moving, kept him from thinking. But here, with Saris watching him with those luminous eyes, he began to wonder if he had been drifting toward this moment all along. The mechanics' gamble. The infection was worse than he'd feared. A network of human machinery still clung to Mother's body. Old mining rigs, processors, coolant injectors, all corroded, all poisoning her further. They had been left in haste, never dismantled. "If I tear these out, she might bleed out," Joran said grimly, wiping sweat from his brow. "But if I don't, she'll die anyway." Saris stood silently beside him. Her small hand touched his. "Do it. She wants to fly again." So he did. For hours he worked, tearing out twisted conduits, bypassing corroded pumps, fusing alien biotissue with the raw energy cells of his shuttle. He burned his hands, cracked bones in his fingers, and bled into the alien vines. Mother groaned and shuddered beneath him, sometimes spasming so violently he thought she would collapse entirely. Through it all Saris sang. Her voice was fragile but steady, the sound of it weaving into the very chamber like threads of hope. Joran found himself moving in rhythm to her song, his rough work guided by something more than engineering instinct. Finally, when he had nothing left to give, he collapsed against the vines, gasping. And Mother stirred. The chamber brightened with a soft, steady glow. The pulse beneath his hands grew stronger, no longer faltering but steady like a drumbeat. Vines lifted gently, curling around him and the girl, not to restrain but to embrace. "She says thank you," Saris whispered, tears glowing on her cheeks. "Boys." In the days that followed, Mother regained strength. Her great body shifted beneath the ash, plates of living chitin groaning as though awakening from a long sleep. The storm outside cleared, revealing skies laced with stars. Joran stood on the ridge above the basin, watching as colossal wings unfolded from beneath the ground, if wings they could be called. Veined sails of shimmering membrane caught the light, casting the land in iridescence. Mother was rising slowly, surely. Saris clung to his arm. "She says we can leave now. We can find the others who still live." Her eyes searched his. "Come with us." Joran's heart clenched. For the first time in years he had purpose. He could see it, traveling the stars not as a drifter, but as part of something vast and alive, protecting the fragile child who had trusted him, keeping the great mother strong. But he also knew what it would mean. Once he left with them, he could never return. Humanity would see this living ship as a resource to be plundered. His presence might put them in danger. He crouched to Saris' level. "I want to. But maybe I shouldn't." Her eyes filled with light and sorrow. "Why?" "Because your mother needs to stay hidden, safe. People see me with you, they'll come. They'll hurt her again."